Let's go find some images and edit them so that we can paint them. I'm using this site called pexels.com. I want to get a portrait. I want to get the head of the deer. And I'm looking for something that is easily silhouetted. I don't want a picture that has a really busy background. I'm going to select something that has a very plain background so that I can easily select it, delete it, and move on. This is the image that I used, and it's available to you in the resources under your class project section. Now I'm going to take this picture and bring it into Photoshop. I'm going to open a new file that's the size of an American sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11. You can make it whatever size is a default printer paper for you. And I pasted my image in. My version of Photoshop is CS6, but these are steps that you can use in any Photoshop version. I'm going to get you started with the most basic way to isolate something, which means remove the background from something so it's the only thing left in the picture, and that's by using the magic wand tool. The key thing about using the magic wand is knowing the number of tolerance you want to allow for your selection. I'm going to select 50, kind of middle of the road, and take it from there. With that, I was able to select all of the green trees, and I'm basically just clicking on every part that I don't want to be in my picture. I just want that reindeer head. It's working pretty well, and whenever I make a mistake and select something I don't want, I hit Command or Control Z. But you can see that there's some parts that are selected that I didn't want selected, and some things that are close in color because it's going to pick up anything that's similar in color. So with my free lasso tool, I'm clicking down, pressing down as I draw along the line of the deer, and deselecting by hitting Alt as I do that, the parts that I didn't want included, the parts that I don't want to erase. For the parts that I do want to erase, I hit Shift while using the lasso tool, so it includes it in the selection. And pretty soon I have just the reindeer, his antlers, and no background. I have some areas left over, and that'll be an easy swoop of the lasso, and then I'll come back with my magic wand to those areas within that I might have missed. A quick click on delete on my keyboard, and those parts are gone. This isn't going to be a picture that I want to use for anything else. It's just a reference photo, so I'm not going to worry about the jagged edges. Now I select my arrow tool. It's that first tool in your toolbox on the left-hand side. On my keyboard, I'll hit Command or Control T to free transform. I hold down the Shift key on my keyboard to make sure that my proportions are the same and I'm not stretching his head horizontally or vertically as I play with the corners, and place it in my page just as I would want it in my painting. My next step is to play with the levels. So go to Image Adjustments, Levels, and play with these sliders to make him very white and very dark. So we want some stark contrast. All I want to focus on are the areas that require the most attention, which would be those darkest darks. I'll go back to Adjustments, to Hue and Saturation, and I want to completely desaturate, take away all the color, and make him a black and white image. Now I lost the outlines of the antlers, so I'm going to double click on my layer and hit Stroke. It'll basically provide an outline for that layer. Make it a little thinner so it's not so noticeable. I also see some spots that I didn't erase, and just with the eraser I'll dot those out. And this guy is ready to go. I'm going to print him out and use him as my reference picture. I know exactly the outline of him, and I know the parts that are most important. Now let's say you've done your best to isolate your animal, your subject matter, and you've got something in the way. Hitting the letter J, this is the patch tool, I'll select the thing that I don't want, and I'll just drag up to the area that I want it to mimic. It's really pretty simple. It doesn't work perfectly, but it'll work for our purposes of having a reference picture that at least makes some sense and we're not distracted by things that aren't a part of our painting. I'll keep doing this, and as I get to edges, it may look a little funny, so I'm going to avoid those edges. As I continue, I'll just keep working up, working inward, trying to imagine, okay, what might look like this area. And I could pick from fur that's on the far right, drag it to the far left so that it's not so patterned and stampy looking. But really right now, I just want to have this out of the way so that visually I can just focus on the animal. I do the image adjustments as before, desaturate and stroke, and here we go.